The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking.
Coming in here covert style tonight, undercover with my OCF hat on, because we got breaking news, boys and girls. And when there's breaking news, I promised I'll try to drop what I'm doing as soon as I can, even though it's about 1:40 in the morning, for the common Joes and sides in the know, because hell, they put me in the know sometimes. And this story is coming from my podcast partner, Jonathan Lewis, who will also probably do a story on this today as well. Check him out at College Football with Jonathan Lewis. And that big story is the SEC is thinking about seceding from the NCAA and having their own playoff because of how the meetings went last time with all the other conferences that were aligned together called the Alliance dragging their feet. Let's talk about it. Woo! Some big stuff is ahead of us, boys and girls. Once again, about this time last year, we had expansion talks, but this is a lot bigger, a lot bigger than expansion. As I said in the lead up, the SEC and Greg Sankey have sat down and told Pete Thamel of ESPN that they are actually thinking about seceding from the NCAA. But before I get to all that and let you know what's going on with probably the biggest news in college football history, if this comes to fruition, I'd like to ask you guys and gals to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Subscriptions are always most important. They keep me motivated, keep me up and going. And of course, up underneath this video where the like button is and the share button is and whatnot, if you look on down there a little ways next to the download button, you'll see a little heart that says thanks. You hit that, give a little money to the show, and that way I don't have to depend on YouTube as much. And you know why. But now, getting right to it, it seems that Greg Sankey has still got a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth from all those meetings that took place a few months back, or almost about a year ago, where they all had a little meeting about the possibility of a 12-team playoff. Maybe an 8-team playoff. Maybe a 10-team playoff. But they wanted to expand the playoff in order to try to make it fair for the other conferences to get representation and to have a more varied playoff. Now the SEC and Jack Swarbrick of Notre Dame were actually helping push this along. And these are two of the entities that really don't benefit from this as much. I mean, the SEC has been winning national championships left and right. Notre Dame's independent, and they've always had a huge following, considering they're considered the premier university of the Catholic religion. They always get the benefit of the doubt, does Notre Dame, and so does the SEC. So they thought they was actually doing these guys a favor by getting together and trying to hash this out. But in fine heyday, yearn for the years of the Rose Bowl days, Pac-12 and Big Ten screwed the pooch on that. They drug their feet, didn't get anything accomplished at all. And it really pissed Greg Sankey off. And now we see the fruition of that. Because now the man is talking about not really taking his ball and going home. He's just talking about taking the ball and maybe having a bigger yard. Not really a bigger yard, but a better yard to play in. Because it won't be a bigger yard. It'll be microcosm down a lot. So, if the SEC, I took some notes on this tonight because, like I said, usually I like to ad-lib it a bit, but this is pretty important. So, it says ESPN's Pete Thamel reports the SEC is entertaining models for an 8-team playoff beyond the year 2025 for the SEC, if they decide to form their own league and their own champion. Like I said, it says Greg Secede is still a little pissed about the dragging of the feet, especially amongst the alliance, that being the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12, when they formed their little loose alliance last year. We knew that probably wasn't a good idea, especially for the ACC. I still haven't understood that. But going on into the article here, Jack Swarbrick of Notre Dame was also rather agitated in all this. So not only did they piss off Greg Sankey, but they pissed off Swarbrick, who was the representative of Notre Dame. So if the SEC going forward does do this, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the ACC are probably thinking, so we'll just have our own champion too, right? Yeah, I guess you could think that. But the SEC, what they don't realize, my thoughts on this is, what I'm thinking is that, and from what some of the reports are saying, the SEC is not going to stand pat with just their 16 and name a champion. Because, you know, that's what the Pac-12 and the Big Ten want, I think. Because they want to go back to the Rose Bowl days where they didn't have to play teams from other conferences like the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC, and any of the non-Power 5 conferences. They wanted to have their own little yard in the Rose Bowl and have nobody disturb them. So they would probably be like, okay, we'll just go back to the Rose Bowl days. But the SEC, as I just said, is not going to stand pat with 16. What do y'all think they're going to do? And let's not forget that Kevin Warren, probably one of the dumbest commissioners of all time, showed his ass during the coronavirus epidemic during 2020 and tried to shut down the whole year. Now, he went in there and he decided that his conference was not going to play any non-conference games. I went over this before on my previous channel. And he got away with that because he can control that. But he got a little too full of himself and thought he was King Ding-a-ling, and he went in there and said, you know what, we're just going to cancel the whole year. And so he figured everybody would follow suit and he's going to look like this grand leader and that he could push his political agendas and whatnot and take this and run with it and be the czar of college football. What he didn't expect was the SEC and the Big 12 to say, hold on for a second. We're not doing this. We're going to have a football season. Y'all don't want to play? That's fine. Go home. Don't play. Go in there and eat marshmallows and s'mores and whatever the hell you want to do. But we're going out here and we're going to play some football. And the year progressed. Ohio State, Nebraska, and Penn State, most notably, and Michigan to some degree, were not very happy with Kevin Warren because they felt like that he did not take into account their feelings and their considerations, because these teams actually contend for national championships and it's a big part of their economy. Whereas the other schools are more academically inclined and it really don't affect them. They really don't care as much. Wisconsin, Iowa, take that back. Those two also were not very happy with Kevin Warren. So there was about 6 schools that really didn't like Kevin Warren too much and the way the Big Ten brass handled the whole 2020 Corona season. That unhappiness almost manifested in the fact that Nebraska almost decided to join another conference for just a year. That didn't come to pass because the Big Ten wouldn't allow them to do that. And finally Kevin Warren got off his ass and decided to do what was right and stop trying to play political musical chairs with our sport. That's what he was doing. And now we got the situation that we got now. Kevin Warren and the Pac-12 commissioner at the time, I don't think it was Klevikoff at the time, went in that meeting, and it might have been Klevikoff, I'm not sure about that, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but they went in that meeting with the ACC, with their little alliance, and had no intention of trying to iron this out. And once again, Kevin Warren played a bad hand. not knowing that Greg Sankey had a trump card up his sleeve. That trump card is, hey, we'll just separate, just like we was going to do in 2020. We'll just separate from it. And y'all think y'all just going to do the Big Ten thing? If we can come in here and take the two cash cows away from the Big 12 in Texas and Oklahoma, you don't think we can come out there and take? You don't think the SEC could come out there and take some of your teams? Oh yeah. And what the SEC is trying to do is not just have a national championship amongst their conference. What the SEC is trying to do, in my opinion, is form a super league. And they'll probably drop the acronym of SEC and call it something else like CFA, or come up with another little acronym down here, Super College Football League. It could be the SCFL. It sounds too much like CFL, right? But if you remember back in the day, some of you, CFA was actually an organization in the 1980s that was about to challenge the NCAA on some of their rules regarding teams being on TV. The NCAA ended up acquiescing and the CFA went away. But now, it looks like this may be coming back. Now, the only way this doesn't happen is if the Big Ten and the ACC and the Pac-12 all get together and decide that they're going to try to actually iron this out and not try to patronize somebody. That, or like I said, the SEC, in my opinion, there's a lot of scenarios in this that could happen. The SEC could go and merge with the Big 12. Because as you know, during 2020, the Big 12 was the only conference that supported the SEC in their move to actually play a full season of college football. The Big 12, not the Big 12, the Big 10 and the Pac-12 come in late, and a lot of them only played 7 or 8 games. They shouldn't have been allowed in the playoffs, to be honest with you. But that's a possibility. The SEC could just go ahead and take the rest of the Big 12, merge, and have their own Super League. But what I think is going to end up happening is they're going to probably take some more of the Big 12 teams, but they're also going to go and possibly take away some of the teams in the Pac-12 and the Big 10, and maybe even the ACC. Now, the ACC does have a contract that runs to 2036. But of that contract, I'm not sure how it's worded and what it's all about. Maybe y'all can tell me in the comment section. It's to 2036. Now, I don't know if that's a contract with ESPN or something, because if it is, then ESPN can just do away with it. And at that point, the ACC becomes fair game for the SEC as well. Now, the ACC joined the Big 10 and the Pac-12 because they didn't want their conference rated by those conferences, but I don't think they took into account that they can't stop the SEC. So if they do away with that 2036 little contract, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, all those teams are fair game. Maybe even Virginia Tech and NC State. But it's a lot to think about. And I think Kevin Warren and the Pac-12 commissioner and the ACC commissioner, I think his name's Swafford. Of course, they may have a new one now. I can't remember. I think they all probably need to go wipe themselves, because the SEC has just played a major punk card. And it might just be a bluff to get them at the table and to get a playoffs scenario done. That very well could be. But if it doesn't come to fruition, I think we could see a Super League. The SEC will probably go out and add anywhere from 8 to 16 to maybe even 24 more teams, maybe even more than that, if they can. And we'll have a college football Super League. Be like a light version of the NFL. So you guys and gals, tell me what you think. There's probably numerous scenarios I hadn't even thought of yet. Drop it in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And that's all I got to say today. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And now, class is dismissed.